One of the first and most fundamental things to learn when you begin piano is how to sit at a piano and how to play the piano. Now that might sound kind of ridiculous. I mean, obviously, if I'm already sitting at a piano, I can just play, right? But there is actually a best way to sit at a piano, to play the piano, that's going to help you out in the long run, or especially over the years if you're playing for years. So the first thing you want to make sure you do when you're sitting at a piano is make sure the distance away from the keys is a good distance. So the way you figure that out is make two fists with your hands and stick them out to the fallboard like this. So this is about how far you want to be from the piano. Obviously it's different for everyone depending on how tall or how short you are. But it's a good amount of distance, you know. You give yourself a lot of room between yourself and the keys. The second thing you want to make sure you do is that you play with your wrists up about as high as your knuckles. There are a few reasons for this. First off, if a lot of students, when if you play like this and get used to playing like this, you won't be able to play really fast pieces very well. You start smudging the notes as you're trying to kind of go through. It's just not a good idea. Second reason is that when we play piano, we want to make sure that it's our fingers that are doing the work and not our arms and our hands so much. Our arms and our hands do kind of come into it, but when we're first learning piano, you want to make sure that you're playing with your fingers and not just with your hands. A lot of students, when they begin, and probably everybody does this at some point in time, they play pieces like this, you know, and it's like they're not really using their fingers, they're using their hand and pumping the notes and stuff like that. The problem with that is that your fingers will never learn to play individually and just by themselves, and they probably won't get very strong either because it's not the fingers that are doing the work, it'll be your hands that are doing the work. And so we want to keep our wrists up about as high as our knuckles and make sure we're using our fingers to play and not our hands to play, like this. Another thing that often happens when I tell students to lift their wrists, they go like this, and they lift their shoulders too. Right, and they kind of get a lot of tension up here. While you should lift your wrist, you want to make sure that your shoulders are very relaxed and kind of loose. Basically, you want to be as relaxed as you can be, you know, within reason, but still keep your wrists up and still be playing with just your fingers. So relax your shoulders. Try to make sure there's no tension there. Also, you want to keep your back straight when you're playing. This actually isn't necessarily with me with my back straight. What you really want to do is kind of take your shoulders, bring them back. This is what it's like with your back straight. And I promise you, I forget to do this all the time. And if you see really, really good musicians, they're kind of all over the place. But when you're first starting with piano, you want to just get used to this and kind of, you know the rule before you break it. So just to review a little bit, make sure you're this far away from the piano. Make sure you got your wrists up. Make sure you're playing with your fingers. Make sure your back is straight. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed. One last thing you want to make sure you're doing when you're playing piano is make sure you play with curved fingers as you go through this. Again, this is something that isn't going to be a big deal in the beginning, but over time you're going to find that you're able to fly over the keys a lot better if you're curving your fingers and learning to play this way. The problem with flattening your fingers is you notice you can't really move along the keys quite as well. You tend to smudge a lot of the notes and a lot of the passages in music a lot more easily if you flatten your fingers. So keep them curved, play right on the tips, right on the tips of your fingers to the keys. And that is how you have good form.